Hello, I'm Gordon Buchanan, and welcome to Beneath the Baobab, the Communities and Conservation podcast from JAMA International. As we continue exploring the real-life costs for communities living with wildlife, we move to Zimbabwe to visit the Mahenye community and the Jamanda Conservancy, where the hope is that tourism revenue will go some way to aiding those living alongside dangerous and sometimes life-threatening wildlife. A decade on from the programme's inception, the Mahenye have scaled up and begun the development of an upmarket tourist lodge called Chilo Gorge Safari Lodge, employing many residents while expanding the community land and re-establishing the ancient migration route between Gonarazu and the Chimanimani in Mozambique, which hadn't seen elephants in over 40 years, but now has an excess of 300. The route to coexistence continues to bring its challenges, of course, as we hear from the people at the very heart of the matter, beneath the baobab. This little hamlet is part of the Mahenye community, which is sort of quite a sprawling place, little sort of centres and little settlements that are spread through a lot of kind of quite sort of dense woodland. This is a place where there's agriculture, there's crops, there's livestock, but in addition to that, people survive by fishing as well. The Save River is only 3 kilometres from here. Quite a sizable river, a place where there's water that runs throughout the year, a place where there's fish, a place where there's wildlife, but it's also a place where there is danger, and that's where this sort of story really started that I'm about to look into. Maxwell, who lives in this little settlement, was fishing on the Save River back in 2003 when he was attacked by a crocodile. In that attack, he lost both of his arms. 20 years later, he has survived. He's still living here with his family. So I've come to find out about his story, about how those changes in his life have affected him, and what his outlooks, what's his relationship with wildlife, and what are the relationships for the whole community, what are the challenges that they face when it comes to living alongside these potentially dangerous animals. Well, thank you for taking time to speak to us today. When you were growing up, was obviously wildlife would be a concern, but was it something that you thought about every single day, the potential threat of living alongside wild animals?
Yeah, growing up, we used to have incidents of related human-wildlife conflict. Though in terms of numbers, back then it was a bit minimum because we could share the landscape with wildlife. That's where we get our living. That's also wildlife thrives to live. Hence, one way or the other, we were having these encounters. Mm-hmm. Yes.
And I think people living alongside wildlife, there are those challenges and there's the threats, but for someone like you, you're an extreme example of the real danger of living alongside wildlife and wild animals. Can you tell me what happened and tell me your story, if that's okay to do so?
So one of the days we went along Save River for our usual fishing with our fishing rods. I had my fellow colleagues with me. So when I threw mine, it got hooked within the reeds along the river. So I was trying to take my hook back and throw it again. Then a crocodile charged directly at me.
Okay.
So it caught my hand, my right hand. So I shouted to my fellow colleagues that I've been caught by a crocodile, but due to panic, everyone ran away. So while I was trying to fight the crocodile off, I tried to use my other hand, my left hand. So it then released the right and got the other hand as well. So my right hand was now broken, and this left one was still in the jaws of the crocodile. So at this stage, my colleagues, I think, settled in well. Then they rushed back to me with a long stick, trying to agitate the crocodile so that it releases me with a long stick. It then released me at the same time while my other colleagues were hitting the croc, others were pulling me out of the water. So I was then rushed to the hospital, but as you could see that our distance from a convenient hospital, when I got there, my hands were already severely injured, and the doctor said they can only amputate.
To have an injury like this, you obviously have to change so much about how you live your life. And I suppose for a man and for being a provider for your family, no longer being able to do those jobs, have you had to completely rethink who you are as a person and how you can continue to contribute to your family and contribute to the community in a different way?
Yeah, this has been really a difficult time for me. I can no longer be able to provide for my family. We rely heavily on subsistence farming as well as fishing, but I can no longer do that. My wife with my small kids are the only people who are now cultivating the land, and there is a lot on her plate as well, looking after the family. Now she also has to look after me. I cannot do it myself, so it has been really difficult, extremely difficult for me to live.
I'm seeing you've got your badge that says you're a village head. What does that mean? That's obviously a way that you contribute to the community. Can you tell me what that involves, being a village head?
My responsibilities and contribution to the community is calling in meetings at village level, organizing ourselves at village level, trying to relay any messages that are related to our livelihoods, as well as well-being from the chief, from the district coordinator, or from any other development partners that might be willing to work with us as a village.
Okay. It must be very difficult to be part of this community and to have children yourselves and to have children that will be doing the same things that led to this accident. Is that how I can't imagine what it must be like for you, one of your sons, to go to the river to do the types of things that you were doing on the day that you were attacked. How do you deal with that? Is that something you just have to accept, or is every day do you just say be super careful, be vigilant, or is it something you have to put to the back of your mind and just hope that that sort of history doesn't repeat itself?
It's a bit difficult for me to think that my fellow colleagues or my own children should not go and fish along the Save River, because it's one of our livelihoods. That's what we depend on. But at the same time, I also have that thought based on my experience. But however, if I advise a colleague, probably they might think that I don't want them to get food or to provide for their own families. So henceforth, I'll just keep these thoughts in my head and looking while other people are going in the same direction, and they got lucky more often.
This podcast series is about the coexistence challenge. And I think I've even said in the past of what we're looking for is harmony and peaceful coexistence. But there's never going to, there's shades of that. And if you share the sort of your world with crocodiles and with elephants, there can never be true harmony. There can never be, a lasting peaceful relationship, because they are wild animals. You can't convey to them, okay, this is how we want to live alongside you. You can't say to an elephant or a crocodile, hey, okay, let's sort this out. Well, let's live together and live together peacefully. Mm-hmm. So how would you describe the relationship that people have with wild animals? Is it acceptance? Is it just simple tolerance?
We as a community, I think we've got a feeling that wildlife is being prioritized over our own lives as local communities. That currently along Save River there is a very big croc, which is known, and it has terrorized this area for about 2 years, 3 years now. This week it caught one of our cattle there, but as I've said, it has been terrorizing us for almost 2 years. Nothing has been done. Mm-hmm. These are the species that we think it has to be put down through the problem animal control. We don't spend 2 days here in Mahenye community without loss of livestock, mostly goats, mm-hmm. from wild dogs. But we have sent reports and reports, but you could see that no one is really taking it seriously and promptly responding, mm-hmm. to us. So at this stage, we might as well feel that there is a bit of priority in terms of wildlife, yeah. of our own lives and welfare.
And is there a compensation scheme for any loss, I suppose, but particularly for the wild dogs killing goats regularly?
We do not have any compensation scheme currently. So once you lose your livestock or have a permanent disability like myself or injury, there is no kind of any assistance that, mm-hmm. you can get from the relevant authorities.
So for your injuries, your disability, you didn't get any compensation at all?
There was no any form of compensation or relief aid, mm-hmm. that I received. I was once referred to social welfare for assistance. I was issued a card for grants disbursement, the social grant disbursement, but I went there 2004. After 3 months, I could not get anything. I went back towards 2004, end of year. I could not get anything in that card till now. I haven't received any sort of fund or relief aid.
Yeah. It's quite hard to summarize that conversation with Maxwell, because what happened to him is really unimaginable. I think just the sort of the encounter itself, to be grabbed, attacked by a crocodile, and then subsequently to have lost both your arms, those life-changing events, it's a lot to take in. And there's things, I suppose, aspects of his life that I really, will never understand, and no one that's sort of not in that position would understand. I suppose the sort of the hope that there is in this story is that you can, even with that level of loss and physical trauma, you can continue with your life, you can contribute to your community, with the love of and the support of your family. You can go on. I think maybe the sort of, well, one surprising thing is that you can survive that type of attack. You can escape from the jaws literally from the jaws of death, and you can carry on with your life. I'm going to speak to Chief Mahenye, who is the chief of this community, and he is the spokesperson for, I suppose, every man, woman and child, every family that lives in this area. So any issues or problems that those families and this community faces as a whole, it comes through the chief. So he's a great person to speak to get an overview of what life is like here. Initially, just purely for this community, the people that live here, what are the benefits that come with living close to wild animals? Because I think a lot of people don't think of it in that way, as there being benefits.
We are currently, as a community, benefiting through mostly hunting, where we partner with our Rural District Council, Chipinge, and a private operator who comes to hunt. And whatever they hunt, we are entitled to 50% of the revenue generated. Maybe to elaborate further, let's say, for instance, an elephant is hunted. We do not only benefit the revenue, but we also get the meat as a community, which is shared amongst all the community members. And on top of that, our revenue sharing, which we also depend on as a community.
Great. Does that money go into schools, health? How does it actually help individual families of, I suppose, the community as a whole? How do you convert the money into the real benefits for the community?
Currently, our secondary school, we have built 2 classroom blocks using the CAMPFIRE revenue. We had also built 2 staff houses, 3-bedroomed, for our primary school teachers.
On the flip side of the benefits, to living alongside wildlife, there's obviously the cost. Can you tell me the downsides of sharing space with potentially dangerous animals?
Yes, it's really difficult to coexist with wildlife, as we have got severe cases of livestock predation from wild dogs, also crop depredation from elephants. But however, we are also benefiting, and currently that outweighs the cost of coexisting with wildlife.
I suppose the community is empowered in many ways because people are listening to the community is benefiting from wildlife. But I suppose you, the community, are the people that are actually bearing the cost of living alongside wildlife. So are there some solutions that you as a community that you'd like to see implemented that's going to improve your lives and work towards sort of a more peaceful coexistence?
Yes, we have our own thinking in this regard, but I would like to highlight that so that you have got a view of what we are trying to, the level or the extent of damage. If I sell my goat now, I can be able to send my kids to school. If I sell my cattle, I can be able to provide for my family. But these are the livestock that are being killed on daily basis by crocodiles, by wild dogs. So we really have a problem. What we think might also work is to have full-time game scouts or game rangers from the authorities during the peak season, especially of farming, so that they just guard our fields against elephant raids to scare them away, unlike to call them in already when elephants are within our fields. So we probably think that might help. But as I have mentioned earlier, I don't think we have got much of a problem with the rest of the wildlife species, just mostly the elephants, the crocs along the river where our livestock drinks, and the wild dogs. So I think if we have the authorities coming in to assist during the peak seasons, it would greatly help.
I've come to this very scenic but somewhat blustery spot overlooking the Save River. This is supposed to be a dividing line between protected national park area and community lands. So it is a wildlife area, but it is also a human landscape. People come to this river to fish, to gather water, to wash their clothes. And when it comes to human wildlife conflict, this is where where it happens. Sort of, it's this buffer zone between the human world and between a protected area. I've arranged to meet Liberty Chauke here. He's on the board of the CAMPFIRE Community Association, so he is a spokesperson for this community. So if anyone's going to know anything about what it's like to strive to coexist with wildlife in this area, it's Liberty.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people that maybe travel to this part of Zimbabwe, you've got the national park on this side of the river, so they would travel maybe from Harare and they would travel through the communities and then they get to this area, visit the national park where all of the animals are. But I think a lot of people never consider that, okay, you have the human world and you have the national park, but then there's this buffer zone where you have both. You have both people and you have both wildlife, and that's sort of, you know, those are the challenges are making it work for, you know, for people. So is the feeling within the community that people would rather not have to tolerate the animals? Is the feeling that, you know, there's not enough benefits to having wildlife, or do people realize that actually there is a sort of this is worth, I suppose, worth putting up with, and there are enough benefits from living with wildlife?
You will come to realize that the people of Mahenye have already realized that we need to coexist with wildlife, because we've been experiencing human death, human injuries from these wildlife species, but we've come to adapt to live with them, based on the fact that we get benefits from them, such as that we use to pay for the children of our school fees. We used to get household dividends that some of the people used to buy goats, to buy livestock for their own household purpose, to buy food, and to buy medication for the clinics and so forth. So we are embracing wildlife as our raw economic engine, because you see our area, we don't have any other natural resources except wildlife.
Yeah.
So we need to coexist with wildlife so that we can live freely in our land. Besides that, we'll be in a position of saying we don't want wildlife. So I think what is important for now is the need for coexistence, while embracing that wildlife, but appreciating the fact that those wildlife species are benefiting the community, and then we can have that sort of coexistence.
I think a lot of people, you know, traditionally people would have had their crops, they would have their livestock, but then traditionally there would have been those natural resources. I mean, in many ways people think, okay, what is a natural resource? But firewood is one thing, but historically communities here have always viewed the animals as a natural resource that they could utilize.
Yeah, sure.
So it's not a new seeing wildlife as a resource that can actually provide a revenue. That's not a new thing to these communities, I suppose. And as far as, I think, sort of what is the changes that you would like to see brought about in this area? Because obviously you're a spokesperson for the community, so any issues that people have, it comes through you, and you're, I suppose, a mediator in many ways. In the short term, what are the sort of solutions that are going to help the situation of the people living here?
Yeah, some of the solutions are one improvement in our land use systems, having one section of the site where we do collective herding of our livestock, and then the second solution is well, some of the human wildlife conflict issues happen simply because people want to grow up their crops along the rivers, so where water is easily accessible. So we are planning a lot to have, if funds permit, or if there are willing development partners that want to partner with my community by providing grants for the community to develop nutrition gardens, so that people can't go to the river either to fetch water and to grow their crops along the river, thereby avoiding a direct contact with wildlife. So those are some of the adaptation methods that we are thinking of. Then the second thing is the issue of increasing quotas of the of increasing wildlife quotas when doing the quota setting process under the impacts guidance. So if we increase the quotas of those species, I think it will guide us to improve on human wildlife conflict mitigation, because yes, wild animals will be increasing, but their numbers we will doing by doing that we will be keeping on maintaining the number.
Would you be able to just talk a bit more about CAMPFIRE, because this was sort of the birthplace of CAMPFIRE, this area in Zimbabwe. Just exactly what CAMPFIRE is and what they aim to do.
Okay, exactly. The CAMPFIRE program was set up simply because there was human-to-human conflict and human-wildlife conflict. What happened is that people used to stay, some people, not all the people, some people used to stay in the Gonaish National Park. So they used to went in the national park and poach the wild animals there. So it was agreed that there's need for a dialogue between Gonaish National Park and my community. So a dialogue happened. So it was agreed that simply because once wildlife crosses to the community side, because when they cross to our side, they caused the crop damage and we didn't get any benefits from them, either meat or any benefit. So it was agreed that once an animals cross this side, they will be treated the same way we treat our we own our, they will be owned the same way we own livestock and so forth. So meaning that once they cross this side, they are owned by the community. So that's where all the things started, and people started realizing the benefits out of the wildlife. So I think that's all about the CAMPFIRE program. And at first, they received meat benefits of the out of the 2 elephants that were shot in August. They received meat benefits, and later they started receiving revenues. So you come to realize that the aim of the CAMPFIRE program was to improve human livelihoods and food production. That is the second aim. The first aim exactly was to reduce human wildlife conflict and ensure coexistence between people and wildlife, whilst ensuring that they get benefits out of living with those magnificent yet dangerous wildlife, wild animal species.
I'm sitting in this stunning lodge overlooking a stunning view of the Chilo Gorge. There's the Save River here that stretches another couple of 100 kilometers to the Indian Ocean. If I look down, well, I'm hearing the noises of elephants off in the downriver. I'm hearing hippos sort of splashing about. There's some animals down on the sandbar there. Looking out earlier on, you could see crocodiles. This is a very wild, sort of one of the wildest of wild scenes, and I'm joined at this location by Clive Stockil, who's many things, not just a conservationist, sort of wildlife expert, sort of partner in this lodge, but really you're kind of a member of this community. I was going to say honorary member, but you are a member of this community. You speak the language, you know the people. This is where you were born and raised in this part of the world. So what would this community look like 40 years ago?
When I started here, you would never have seen an elephant on this side of the river during the day. Only when the cropping season came, bulls would come out of the park at night, raid the crops,
Straight back
in again. Whereas today, we have got living on the communal land side daily between 300 and 400 elephants.
Wow.
40 years ago, there wasn't one living on the side. What has changed was just people's attitude to coexist and make an effort of allowing them to live in their areas.
Someone today, and they were talking, horrendous attack by a crocodile. Maxwell lost both his arms. I'm sure you know of him. But he said there was no sort of talk of retribution. It was sort of, it hadn't even sort of factored into their their thinking. And even someone that had sort of, has had such life-changing injuries, he was still, he would not remove the animals from this landscape because he saw the sort of the value in them for the community.
Yeah, I think this is what people don't appreciate. The different cultures have very different views on particularly wildlife and dangerous wildlife. The Shangans are unique because of the fact that they've lived amongst them for so long, and they've appreciated the fact that the quality of life is improved by a healthy environment. A healthy environment attracts wild animals. Wild animals are part of your sustenance. They're not untouchable.
Yeah.
You should be able to benefit from them, so you can tolerate them.
Yeah.
So they've got an approach, and this is why CAMPFIRE was so successful here, was historically 100, 200, 300 years ago, they were living in harmony with the elephants. They utilized them, but they had accepted them. They've also got a reverence for wildlife, particularly mature, older animals, just as they do with humans. They respect elders. They've got a huge respect for age.
Yeah.
And this is the only culture that I know of in this country that actually recognize the importance of that.
Yeah.
They have they have a name or a term for each species of large animals that have reached a certain age and status in life. And it's disrespectful to call a mature elephant bull just elephant. It's not an elephant. It's something different.
Yeah.
And you refer to it as kambako.
Kambako.
And, a male lion is not a kala. It's a tsembwe. Now, when the elders talk about those animals, they talk to them in reverence. And, in the Old English language, you'd say thee or thou or you. Well, it's disrespectful in that context to refer to someone of age as a you. It's a thee. That's how they speak about a mature elephant in their language.
Yeah.
So they've got a respect for elephants. They see their role. They recognize the fact that a healthy environment, including the wildlife, is in fact necessary for the quality of human life.
Yeah.
There's the challenge right now, whereby the Western perspectives have been focusing only on just conservation, protection, wildlife. Well, it's been too successful. That's what I'm trying to do right now, on my own bat. I'm trying to beg, borrow, and steal from whoever is prepared to help me, and that is to prove that we can actually recover the fields that have been abandoned because of elephant. And using modern technology now and coming in and developing village unit level production zones. And that we have to use solar energy. We've got to use those tools that are made available by modern technology. And electric fencing today is a tool. And what I'm doing right now here is setting up a pilot scheme, only of 3 or 4 hectares. And I want to become a communal producer of the food crops that they grow traditionally in the village, and produce it even under the pressures of the elephant. If that can happen, we can then recover the lost land.
Is that your belief that there are solutions to these things? It's just finding what is affordable for a community and proving that it works.
Well, this is what I'm hoping. We can use modern technology to develop mechanisms that are successful. Running out and beating sticks that's how people get killed. That's where the injuries take place. Having grown up with this community and speaking the language very fluently and understanding them and meeting with them virtually every day, I would venture to say that because you are a visitor from the West coming in and asking these types of questions,
Yeah.
that they've been programmed over the years that these are the people that may be donors, so you want to talk kindly about what they're interested
Yeah.
in. Take you guys out of the equation and sit under a tree with them and tell them, right, let's sit down and talk about, this cost
Yeah.
factor that you have right now, and you get a different picture.
Yeah.
You get a
No, I
completely
think
different-
that's definitely something that was on my mind, but it was almost too good to be true, because the responses I was getting from people were like, yeah, you don't want to ask leading questions, but there will be preconceived ideas of the, as you say, the answers that I want to hear, and people the world over like to please other people. So
Exactly.
I did think, it would be interesting to sort of, given the situation and then the level of loss and the sort of loss of life, loss of livestock, loss of crops, I think that surely it can't be all as rosy as this. So what, how close do you think this community is to the tipping point when they say this simply isn't working?
I think they've demonstrated, I think, a lot of tolerance and maturity over particularly the last sort of 15 to 20 years. But I'm getting more and more, and this is the language that will be spoken like at village level, with no perception of a Western person there. I'm kind of an elder now in the village, sort of as an advisor. When I go to a meeting there, it's you're not influencing what is being said. What I mean. I'm picking up that there is now concern that there's just too many elephants now, and this is now becoming a burden for the community. And they're not saying we have the answer. They're obviously within the community. You've got the radicals, the old poacher guys. They say, no, just let us know when you fail, because we know how to deal with it. We've done it before and we can do it. I mean, they're very quick to remind you that they have a solution, but obviously that might not be a solution that we all like, the Western world. So I think that they're committed. That's why I think, just getting back to Jamanda, that's why I've been pushing Jamanda so hard, because I think Jamanda Conservancy here is a critical component for this community to see more tangible benefit from wildlife with less human-wildlife conflict, but getting a benefit from it because of the sacrifice they've made of giving up some of their grazing land to put back into wildlife with a fence that protects the human-wildlife component. Jamanda to me is critical. It has to work. It's right at a critical crossroad at the moment. I mean, we don't even know if we're going to be able to pay our rangers this month, because the support that was there disappeared, and there's been no replacement. And the initial support was for infrastructure, for hardware, but it did nothing in terms of developing income streams. The business side of things, they dropped it. It came to a business plan implementing some form of an income stream benefiting from their investment. The supporters disappeared over the hills and have left a community now without the sort of qualifications of being able to set up a business plan, to implement a business, a governance structure that is transferable, So we're at a very difficult time at the moment, and all I'm saying is that it is a project that needs support right now, because it would be a huge positive at this time, when in the villages, between the wild dogs, the elephants, crocodiles, lions and hyenas, and even leopard. Yesterday morning, just one of the close villages here, lost 2 goats at 3 o'clock in the morning to a leopard. It's a predator down there. So listen, they are paying the costs. I'm finding myself standing more and more on the community side in defending their rights against, the Western perception of conservation, because it is biased towards animals, and I think there's got to be a balance.
Yeah. When you decided to build the lodge here, how long ago now is that sort of?
We opened it in October 96.
And did you realise that the success of somewhere like this was going to be completely dependent on the sort of support of the local community?
Well, it was as a result, because you must remember, I had been helping the community with the CAMPFIRE program since 1980. So that was like 1980, 90, 95. It was nearly 20 years I'd been working with a community with no lodges. CAMPFIRE the principles of CAMPFIRE was utilization of their wildlife. That was the fundamental sort of concept which evolved, and that started. CAMPFIRE actually started with this community. The very first CAMPFIRE program ever was here, and after about 10 years, I thought, hunting revenue is limited by a sustainable quota, and you got to maintain the principle of sustainable use. You can't overutilize a resource because you then erode it. And of course, that the community don't set their quotas, so they can't say, this year for us to come out, we need to sell 20 elephants. We can't do that. It's done scientifically, and you get 2 elephants. And the community is saying, hey, 2 elephants is not quite enough. So there was always that pressure, how else can we make some money? And that was when, this was in about 1990. I said, well, you've got a park there. You want to go back and live in the park, don't you? Yeah. How about what we do is we then create facilities here to bring people who will stay, who will contribute to some form of income to you. The reason why they're coming here is to go into the park. I say, look at the park as one of your fields. You've all got fields that you prepare once a year. You don't build your village in the field. You have your village zone and you've got your field. That's your field. Tourism is a means of harvesting a product. It's a crop. And in my view, Gona Resort now is probably the best managed run park in Zimbabwe. The wildlife has bounced back beyond expectation. It is truly a wonderful experience. It's just a pity you don't have time that we could share that with you. Come back at some time. But it is a really beautiful park and wonderful product. So, I'm optimistic. I'm hopeful that this is going to contribute towards maintaining community support in this whole initiative. But we've got a long way to go.
What is the Coexistence Challenge? What does that really mean? Because I think for a lot of people, I mentioned to somebody, we're doing a podcast series on human-wildlife conflict, and they were like, what's that? And this is like a very well-educated, they didn't even understand the concept. And I said, well, it's about this sort of coexistence challenge of people and wildlife. But again, they just didn't have that sort of information and experience of what, you know, what the problem is, let alone trying to solve it. So yeah, if you can, what in your opinion, what is the coexistence challenge, and what is sort of the most promising solution?
Well, the solution's the difficult one because we haven't got there yet. We understand the challenges. You know, one has to start off, and obviously a lot of, you know, my background is conservation, and I would guess that 98% of the people that come to this lodge have come because they've got an interest in conservation, wildlife. So they put a value on that over there. And that's what they're interested in. I've lived in Africa all my life, and I've lived with these communities against a protected area all my life. I'll tell you something, that is fact. Unless we as humanity can come up with mechanisms where we can maintain, improve coexistence, people are going to win. And when I say win, they want to move back there. Mm-hmm. That's home. They will move back. That park will disappear. It will go. There's no government in the West that will eventually stop communities from going back and retaking what they believe is theirs. Those parks are threatened. So if you're a conservationist and that's your interest in life and you want to support conservation, you better wake up and realize that there is a threat, and that threat right now is one that we can work together to try and reduce and build resilience out of it, and that's what we've got to try and do.
Next time in Beneath the Baobab, we remain in Zimbabwe, travelling to Chitsviritsi, which compared to the Mahenye has a dual challenge of being a resettlement area and a late joiner to the CAMPFIRE programme. I'm Gordon Buchanan. Thanks for watching. If you'd like to hear the audio version of this episode, just search Beneath the Baobab on your preferred podcast app or follow the links below the video. JAMA International are passionate about conservation and well-being for people and planet, and know it's crucial to open positive dialogue and share ideas. We'd love you to share this video. Please do so with the hashtag Beneath the Baobab on social media, or maybe just start a conversation with a friend